Okay, so let's make some videos for Rubric 2. Rubric 2 asks for a switch statement, which is a form of conditional statement. If you remember in Rubric 1, you had if-else statements. This is switch, which is used for if you have certain cases or conditions that should be met, usually in a string format. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about functions. Not just using functions that are built in, like we've used already, the alert and the prompt functions, but actually creating functions and then passing information into and out of a function. Additionally, I'm going to have you turn in these projects as a separate external JavaScript that is linked to an HTML page, and that works just like a cascading style sheet does. And the good thing about that is, just like with a cascading style sheet, you can control multiple pages or use the same JavaScript on multiple pages, just linking to the same external file. However, while I am working on these samples, I am going to keep the JavaScript actually here inside of Dreamweaver because it's just a little bit easier to hit that live view button and show you these samples of how things are working. So first things first, we'll show you that, how to put everything externally at the end. And it's basically exactly the same as a cascading style sheet. Okay, so let's talk about a switch function. A switch function is conditional, which means it makes certain things happen when different cases are met. So for instance here, we're going to grab a variable. Let me make sure my Dreamweaver is active here. We have a variable, and I am going to have it be instructor name. And again, I'm using camel casing. Remember, the small letter in the beginning and the second additional follow-on words are capitalized to make everything easier to use, to read. We're going to go ahead and use prompt function to get that information. So now I've declared my variable and given it some information how it's going to work. Okay, now let's go ahead and make a switch statement. So I'm going to say switch, and this is again a function that is recognized by JavaScript. And anytime you have a function, you have to have parentheses after it that pass in information. It passes in what's called parameters. And if the function needs information from outside of the world to work, or outside of the function itself, it needs to have the information passed to the inside. In this case, variable is a global variable. It is outside of the function. So we need to pass this variable instructor name into the function. So I'm going to go ahead and pass that in. Sometimes it's easier just to copy and paste so that you know that you spelled properly. Because, you know, if you don't spell it exactly right, if your caps are off or something, then you're out of luck. Okay, again, since this is a function, it's followed by a code block, which is going to be limited by my curly braces. So I'm going to go ahead and open and close my curly braces. Now let's talk about what happens based on the different cases of instructor name. So case 1, let's say somebody types in Vivian. I'm going to put in here a colon, not a semicolon, because I'm not ending the statement. Semicolons are used only to end statements, but this is a colon that's going to say what happens if it's Vivian. So I'm going to have an alert. It says lucky. Now I need to put in a break, and the purpose of the break is to tell, as it's processing this code, to tell it to go ahead and jump out of the function. Say, okay, Vivian was the case, we need to jump out. Otherwise, it would just go on and it would process these next cases. So let's say Susan is the next case. Notice these are in quotations because I am using string variables, so they do need to be in quotes. So I'm having alert. If the case is Susan, what happens? Then I'm going to go ahead and put a break. Then what if somebody doesn't type in Susan or Vivian? We need something that catches everything else. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a default. And I don't need to put in a case because I don't need to put in a case information because the default is a catch-all. Now I don't need to have a break here because, let's give that a little bit more space. I don't need to have a break here because this is the last case inside of this switch statement. So I could put a break if I wanted to. It's not going to help or hurt anything. But here I need to have, after it's Vivian, I need to put the break here so that it doesn't go ahead and process what happens if the case is Susan. So let's go ahead and hit the live view button. What is your instructor, or who is your instructor? Let's say Susan. So according to my script, what should happen? I should get an alert box that says even luckier. Yep. Hit my live view button again a couple times. Vivian. Lucky. Hit it again. Who's my instructor? My instructor is Billy Bob. That is not a known digital media instructor. And that is your switch statement.